Hey guys, welcome to Peripheral Vision, and today we're taking a look at the GameCube screen from Hip Gear for the Nintendo GameCube. Okay, so the GameCube screen is a screen that you can connect to your GameCube so that you can play it without the need for a monitor or television. And that's actually pretty convenient because in its heyday, the Nintendo GameCube was a very popular local multiplayer system, so having this option might be useful at some points. Now let's take a closer look. As you can see on the side here, there is a headphone jack, which is nice. On the top, there's the Hip Gear logo, which actually looks pretty cool. And then there are the inputs, which we will take a closer look at momentarily. And then the screen itself. And this is the Hip Gear screen. Now let's take a look at how it connects to the GameCube. Here is a typical standard purple GameCube, and the Hip Gear screen matches the GameCube's purple color, and I like that. I always like when the weird peripherals match the color so it looks almost authentic, so that's a nice touch. And the way you connect it is turn your GameCube around, and you can just slide it right in. There we go. Close the lid. And the way you connect the wires is, first you take this wire, which is attached to the screen, and you can plug it into the power plug on the GameCube. And you can take this and plug it into the AV input. Now, you don't have to use the cord that attaches to the screen for the video signal. However, you could if you wanted to. You can also use a traditional composite or an S-Video. As you can see, it has those options available. Now, for the power, what you would do is you take the GameCube power supply and plug it into the screen. Alright, turn it around, and let's see what this thing looks like booted up. And there is the screen itself. The volume's actually pretty good, and here is the volume control. Let me zoom in a little on this. There we go. Here's the volume control. You can adjust the brightness and the color, and you can turn the power on and off. Now, turning the power on and off does not affect gameplay. It will only affect it if you click the power button on the console. And as you can see, there are two speakers on each side of these buttons. Now, the game AV switch, for this, if it is switched to the game mode, then if your screen is connected directly to the GameCube, it will show on that one. Now, if it's AV, it would have to be connected through a traditional AV cable, but it doesn't really matter. There's no big difference between using the game mode or the TV mode. It just depends which cords you have available. So, move it up a little bit so we can get a good look at how it looks. And it actually looks pretty good. As you can tell, I'm going to be playing Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door. It might look a little fuzzy on the camera, but it looks really good on the screen, even though it is a pretty tiny looking screen. And that's it. That's the Hip Gear GameCube screen. Now, let me show off a few interesting things. Turn that off for a second. Now, if you are wondering, you are in fact able to use the Game Boy player. So let me plug in the Game Boy player at the bottom quickly, and I will show you it in action. Here it is, the Game Boy player playing Super Mario Bros. From the classic NES series through the Hip Gear GameCube screen. It does bring me to my final point, which is a car charger. That's right, guys. this peripheral came with a car charger, so that technically you can play the Gamecube in the car. Now, just to prove that it does in fact work, let's take a trip out to my Jeep. Finally, a way to play my Game Boy games conveniently by plugging in a Game Boy player into my Gamecube, sticking a hip gear Gamecube screen on top, and using the car charger to plug it into my Jeep. I can finally play Kirby's Dream Land on the go. Man, it feels good. But on a serious note, guys, don't use GameCube screens in the car, even if you can, because the GameCube discs will get scratched super easily, so just be aware that this is not a good thing to do. Even if it's possible, I would not suggest doing it, at least not in a moving vehicle. But with that forewarning out of the way, I'm gonna say that the hip gear GameCube screen is an interesting little piece and something that you might want as a collector to put in your collection. Later days.